Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
I'm super glad that y'all are here. I mean, this has been a cool thing. I've worked with y'all a few years now, and so I've never there's so many breweries that I was like, I need to spread them out, and I was like, I just need to have Carey and Genna on the podcast. So super glad you're here. If you want to introduce yourself, and we'll get started there.
My name's Carey Huff. I'm the owner and head mechanic at Green Bus.
I'm Genna Flynn. I'm the head brewer, and the reason he's the head mechanic.
Perfect. You break the stuff, and he fixes the stuff. Perfect.
Everybody breaks the stuff.
Okay, everyone. Throwing everyone under the bus. Everyone under the bus. So I guess we'll kind of take back kind of your background prior to Green Bus. So I know that you got a building science degree, kind of were in IT.
Yep.
Are you originally from Huntsville, or did kind of work kind of bring you here?
Yeah, so I'm from LaGrange, Georgia, kind of near Auburn. Went to school at Auburn, got the building science degree. While there, worked in the IT department for the School of Construction, or for the School of Building Science. That led into a job as an IT guy at a construction company.
Okay.
Did that for about 13 years. Lived in Montgomery briefly, and then moved up here.
Okay.
My wife got a job up here, and so we moved here.
Yeah, and then I guess you were traveling back and forth. I think we talked a little bit about off air. You were traveling to Montgomery quite often. So
yeah, for a while I would drive down on Monday morning, stay with a coworker, and come back Friday evening.
Oh, wow.
That kind of progressed later on to me working remotely and then going down to the office one day a week.
Okay.
So for about 10 years, I commuted to Montgomery at least once a week.
Yeah, and your background is in culinary, right?
Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in culinary arts and sciences. I graduated from UNA. Actually, the first experience I had with a brewery was Singing River.
Okay.
Because the owners, Rob and Michelle, they were really good friends with the chef I interned for, Chef Lewis, shout out. One day, I just happened to notice him doing prep, and I was like, hey, can I help you? And we did that. And turns out it was for, trivia over at Singing River. And since then, I worked with him at Rob and Michelle's birthday parties, got a tour of the facility over there. Kind of really started getting into craft, just enjoying craft beer because I was always like a Yingling girl for the longest time, and I still am. No
shame.
But that's how I got into it.
All those beers have their place. They have their place.
Absolutely. I love a good Pabst.
Yes, it's hard to there's times and places where that a PBR, a Yingling, a Coors is just okay, that's good.
You need.
It's what you need.
Yeah.
But then there's also that experience that craft beer gives you. And at the time, prior to Green Bus, was that your first experience sort of in craft beer?
Yeah. And then my friend Sue Ann actually had been going to Green Bus because she was still, I guess, going to graduate school or undergrad up here. And she got me coming out to hang out, go to Green Bus, and then I started volunteering with her every so often. Like Jason would let us come and pretend like we were doing things.
Perfect.
And so that's how I met Green Bus.
Yeah.
And
so what was your first sort of experience into craft beer and kind of that first either brewing it yourself or going to a craft brewery?
Yeah. So, excuse me. Growing up, Dad made homemade wine.
Okay.
And I was never really a wine guy.
Yeah.
But I grew up around fermentation and learning the process from seeing him do it. And then I guess during college, my roommate and I got a Mr. Beer kit. Just like everybody everybody that starts homebrewing grabs a Mr. Beer kit at Bed Bath & Beyond or something, And so we started with that, and that just kind of progressed. We had a good time doing it. We're making very mediocre beer.
But it was your own, so it was like
right.
It tasted just a little bit better because it's like I put my or tasted worse. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of times it was worse.
I had a lot of bad homebrew experiences.
And then when I moved to Huntsville, joined a homebrewing club here in town, and those guys are really focused on quality.
Yeah,
it is a social club in a way, but they're way more focused on making you make better beer.
Okay.
Some really good brewers in the club.
So is that where you met Jason and kind of got started
is.
with? Because I guess in 2015 you actually you and Jason acquired the building that Green Bus is at to kind of start doing that build out process for Green Bus. But you were obviously probably brewing beer way prior to that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been brewing, not in large quantities, but I've been brewing since probably 2005 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And you started. When did you start brewing with Jason?
So let's see. We came here in 2009.
Okay.
And then I don't remember exactly when Jason came into the brew club. I had been there for a while when he joined the club and started brewing with us.
But I mean, I guess it's one thing to kind of brew as a passion, just something you enjoy. But then there's another sort of thing to be like, let's open up a store. Let's open up this actual business that serves customers, and like that sort of mentality and mindset. When did that sort of opportunity or thought come to you and Jason that said, hey, let's actually make this a real thing?
So we kicked it around a little while, probably in late 2013. We got a group of guys together and we had a false start.
Okay.
We had a vision, and then some of the other guys that we brought in had a different vision. And, you get to a point and you kind of go, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm setting myself up for something that is not what I envisioned to do, and, not something you want to commit to. Went back and forth a couple times with different people, and we finally just decided, we'll just do it. Yeah. And we're going to stick to what our original plan was. No distribution, no big kitchen, just a bar that happens to make their own beer.
Perfect.
And Jason had 100% interest in the brewery side of the house. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be committed to brewing all the time. I mean, I enjoy brewing. Yeah. I have a good time doing it, but it was a hobby. Yeah. And I didn't want to turn a hobby into a job. So I told him, I had interest in opening the business, the front of house, and he was interested in back of house.
And, so. and I mean, and I guess the opportunity to get, the space you have now is hard to come by nowadays. I mean, there's no, you don't see very many people leaving around the square for new restaurants and new businesses coming and going at this moment, just because the real estate's just too hard to get. Right. But in 2015, it looked a lot different in 2015 than it did today. And the building itself for Green Bus looked completely different. Talk a little bit about that sort of that build out process and kind of what all went into it. Cause I've seen some of the photos and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So the building had sat empty for several years. The city had actually condemned isn't the right word, but they wouldn't issue any business licenses for anything to operate in there. Wow. The floor structure was in really bad shape. So they had used it to store legal records for a long time. And the upstairs floor, I'll get a little construction-y here. I don't know how much detail people want to hear, but the upstairs floor is 22 foot wide, and in the center, there was a 5.5-inch droop. So if you pulled a string from one wall to the other, the floor was 5.5 inches lower in the center over a span of 22 feet. It was, when you walked on it, you had a hard time walking. So we came in and completely gutted the building. If you come in now, the only things that are in the same place as they were when we started demolition is the brick. So the floor that you walk on when you come in, it's old. It's obviously an old floor, but all of that flooring was in the building. It all came out of the building. We replaced all the structure under it and then put the old flooring back down.
And how long did that build out process take from, I guess you got the building in November maybe of 2015?
Yeah, that's when I think that's what it was.
Okay.
It took us 14 months. So we opened in September. So
I guess you probably got it before, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been July maybe.
July of 2015.
July of 15.
And you had a job too. It wasn't like, okay, I can stop with my day job and go full in and give all my attention at this moment to Green Bus. You were still working a 9 to 5 and trying to do the build out process and trying to open up a brewery and presumably trying to actually start brewing some of the beers so that when you do decide to open, you can serve customers.
That wouldn't be legal. I won't comment on that.
Okay. Or maybe not.
It was a lot. Like I say, I was still going to Montgomery once a week. So I would be gone. Typically on Wednesday, I would drive down and be in the office down there all day Wednesday.
Okay.
And then the other 4 days of the week that I was working, I was I was remote.
Yeah, so you're just kind of balancing the two.
Yeah, I had my laptop and stuff at the at the brewery while we were working, and there were times where real job took priority.
Yeah,
of course. I mean,
100%.
that's
like
those are the guys.
We got to pay for this construction somehow.
Yeah, those are the guys that are paying me. So there was a lot of balance in that time. Fortunately, working for a construction company, I talked with my boss, and we acted as the general contractor as well. That's
perfect.
So I pulled the building permit under the company that I worked for. We were very upfront with the city. We went to them, sat down, explained what was going on.
Yeah.
They were understanding. They said, hey, as long as you meet the requirements like everybody else has to, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as that building sat empty for so long, they were probably just also kind of excited for the city to see something coming into it and not just being not condemned, but not in the best of shape.
Just a
building.
Placeholder.
Just
at
a
that
placeholder.
point,
Yeah. And the area was growing, and obviously, I mean, you didn't know in 2016 that in 2023 Huntsville would be as big as it is today.
Right.
But I mean, in 2016, as far as craft breweries, I mean, what other craft? I mean, there was, I guess, Straight to Ale was around.
Yeah.
Yellowhammer was around.
Blue Pants.
Okay.
Which those guys, that's Madison, but Below the Radar.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that used to actually be a brewery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brew Stooges, Mad Malts,
which became Mad Malts. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess they were still there.
So it was a handful,
right?
And so I mean, the craft beer scene obviously wasn't as big as it is today, but there was you had the novice, you had the people in the brewer club that were just passionate about brewing craft beer,
right? And the availability of craft was nothing like it is today.
Yeah,
I mean, the Nook and Liquor Express were really the only guys that had craft.
Wow.
I mean, you wouldn't go into
a restaurant and order
Baumhauer's and see 4 or 5 local craft beers.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Dostal wasn't around.
Yeah.
There wasn't the availability of good craft beer there is today.
I guess beyond just the people that were brewing the craft beer, the people that were kind of, I mean, the popularity and the knowledge of what craft beer was, it wasn't even there either. Like there wasn't just people seeking it out, so there wasn't a need for it to be everywhere like it is today.
Right. I mean, we still see, not to offend them in any way, but we still see an uneducated customer on a regular basis.
Yeah.
What is a Kolsch? What is this beer?
Mm-hmm.
What's a hazy IPA versus a regular IPA?
Yeah.
We still get that, but when we open the door, especially being downtown, 3/4 of the people that came in had no idea what. They just come in and go, "Hey, I'm a Coors Light fan. What you got?"
Like, what's something that's light and easy to drink? Well, we have this, and this on tap. And I think what's funny is I actually pulled an article from 2016. So you opened the doors around September of 2016, I think, maybe.
Yes, September 1.
And so I was pulling an article that talks a little bit about kind of the naming. Obviously, Jason was a big Volkswagen fan, and so that's kind of where Green Bus came from. But there was a list of some of your first, what was on draft at the time of you opening up the doors. And so I was going to read through a little bit of those beers and kind of see about, what.
I think I remember, and I wasn't even there because you can see it when we erase our chalkboard that has all of the stuff. You can still see.
Okay. We used paint markers the first time, or chalk markers.
Here's the 6 beers
Mosaic,
that you had on. Okay.
I say Mosaic Honey Wheat.
That is one.
Dominant Red.
Irish Red is what you called it, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dominant Red.
Hot Bus.
Yeah, Hot Bus.
It wasn't on the list.
Was not.
Watermelon Wheat.
Watermelon Pale Ale, yep.
Pale Ale.
Yeah, let's see.
You had 2 more, or 3 more.
Tiramisu.
Yep.
And
2 more.
Big Spring.
Gosh, no, Big Spring didn't come until later.
Camper.
It probably was what Camper is, but it was this blonde ale.
Blonde ale, yeah.
And then you have 1 more.
Oh man, I don't know.
Hibiscus Pale Ale.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
hibiscus.
Yep, those are the 6 beers that you opened on October 1st. Grand opening was October 1st.
Yeah.
And I think in the article it was cool. It mentioned that I think you went down to to get the license to start serving. And at that moment, as soon as you came back, you opened up the doors and you start serving beer.
Yeah. I mean, there was a week or so where we were basically ready.
Yeah.
We just kind of had to wait on the legal stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
makes sense.
we had to get the occupancy permit.
Yeah.
Business licenses were in place. All that stuff was ready. We just had to get the final okay and get that piece of paper from the city that said the public can come in now.
So when you opened the doors to the public, that October 1st grand opening, was the success just through the roof? Was the place packed? Was just the popularity of Green Bus to what it is today, was it like that in October 1st of 2016, or was it kind of a slow start?
So by October, we had a pretty good crowd in. So we opened on September 1st.
Okay.
And then we had our grand opening street party on October 1st.
Okay.
That gave us a little bit of time to kind of get figured out what we were doing. Yeah. No, I still remember it was, I'm 90% sure it was a Thursday while the Green Street Market was happening. And we got the call from the city and they said, hey, your occupancy permit is ready. And I'm standing there and I looked at Jason and I said, well,
do you want to open?
I was like, y'all get ready. I'm going to run down to the administration building and grab the permit and we'll open the door.
Yeah, might as well.
And so we throw the doors open and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but a doctor came in and he's in his scrubs and he sat down at the bar and he ordered a beer and he opened his laptop and he's doing stuff. And the three of us, my wife at the time, Jason and I, are just kind of standing there staring at him.
Yeah, like, what do we do?
And he kind of looks around a little uncomfortably and he was like, is everything okay? And we were like, yeah, you're just the first customer. And he was like, oh, well, I mean, y'all just opened, didn't you? And we were like, yeah, but we mean like the first ever. He was thinking we just opened for the day.
Yeah. Like,
and we were like, no, you're literally the first person to sit down at this bar and give us money for a beer. And we asked him, we were like, do you mind if we take a picture of you and put it on our Facebook page? And he was like, no problem at all. So he comes back in about 2 weeks later and he says, so I want to let you guys know I got in trouble because of that photo on Facebook. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, I had told my office mates that I had a meeting.
But he's like, but you were working.
Like, and they follow you guys on Facebook. They've been keeping up with you. He said, so when I got back to work the next day, everybody in the office knew I was sitting at Green Bus drinking beer when I was supposed to be in a meeting.
But at least they knew Green Bus was open. So
right.
Then it kind of brought the popularity. I mean, I guess, and I think of like looking through your Facebook and like y'all were posting kind of keeping people up to date around the construction.
Oh yeah.
And then kind of that. So like you probably had a little bit of a following prior to opening the door. So the success you weren't like, I hope people show up and drink our beer. It was kind of like people were excited and ready for that to actually happen.
Right. And part of that is drumming up interest.
Yeah.
You got to be businessing before you're businessing.
Yeah. Otherwise, like the business has no chance of like being successful if you're just going to go into it and say, well, I hope people like our beer. It's like you kind of have to get people, like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's when we're planning on opening. And then, hey, we've actually opened. Come on in and like enjoy beer.
Yeah. I mean, we had done a few beer festivals.
Okay.
We worked through and with Straight to L. Huge shout out to those guys. We wouldn't be where we are without Dan and those other guys. But we were able to brew some beer under Straight to L's licenses at their facility.
And go to the festivals and kind of get people like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing.
Right. So the keg, I wish I had saved them, but the keg collars for those beers said Straight to L, and then it was, the name of the beer was Green Bus Brewing's Mosaic Honey Wheat.
Okay.
So it's a Green Bus beer made by Straight to L.
Those would have been cool to still have and like have them up on the wall in the brewery. But I mean, it's cool to see that. 'Cause I mean, like I said, in 2016, like the craft beer scene is nowhere near what it is today. And Genna, you joined on at Green Bus in 2019, I think, as the assistant brewery.
Yeah.
Kind of what were you doing at that time? What was your roles as the assistant in 2019?
I was really the gopher.
Okay.
So I would, I would do whatever task Jason had set forth. So whether it was like crashing tanks, cleaning, kegging, getting grain ready, not really doing much of the inventory because that was still Jason's stuff.
Okay.
But I just started the bare minimum or, whatever he needed, and I was still bartending at the time.
Kind of filling in wherever, like if they needed you at the bar one day, if they needed you up, if they needed to run and get this, get that, you were just kind of that person.
Yeah, I was an assistant, and it was great. I got to learn a lot, continue to watch what they were doing, and then Jason gradually started putting trust in me and allowing me to brew beers. Like the first beer I ever brewed without any supervision was the ESB. So anytime I have time to make that, I kind of make it as like a little nostalgia thing.
Yeah, there we go.
And I mean, even now being the head brewer, there's not much of a difference. I still don't help with inventory as much as I probably should. But, I make sure I go through the hops and make sure that I've got all the hops I need, tell Carey when I need more hops. We look at the grain. If I need grain for a certain beer that I want to do, I make sure we can I make beers that will bring us to a grain level that's low enough that we can justify ordering a large amount.
Because in 2022 is when you became the head brewer, and it's when, Carey, you kind of became the full owner of Green Bus, and kind of both of your roles changed. I mean, I was at that point, I guess you went full time. You kind of left the IT job, went full time into Green Bus.
Right.
But like your day to day was like, how much did that change for you with that new role?
Not drastically. The biggest thing it did is it gave me a little more free time. I mean, the amount of work that I was doing, nobody likes to say it this way, but the sign of a really good IT guy is that he doesn't have to do anything. Right? I mean, you shouldn't have to be doing a whole bunch of stuff.
It should be working.
Right. Like, and I had gotten the systems at that job to a pretty stable level. I dealt with user complaints. I was the only IT guy for they're about a 70-person company. Mm-hmm. So I had user issues all the time, and then changes and upgrades and that kind of stuff. But those are things you plan for, So I was able to do those things when it suited the need of being done rather than having to do it, So a lot of the brewery stuff was stuff that had to get done. We've got to get this done before we open today. And got to do this after hours.
Have to order this by this time so we have it in time.
Right.
This beer, this whatever.
So leaving the IT job and going full time at the bus has kind of let me do more of the need to get done stuff when it needs to get done rather than pushing it off till last minute.
Yeah, and you're kind of able to work a little bit farther ahead too. Like, hey, this is going to be hopefully happening at this time. Let's kind of prepare to what we're going to look like. But I mean, I guess, even now, you're like as small as that. And I think what most people, I don't think I realized it until I started working with y'all, was that how small the actual brewery is.
Oh yeah.
Like it is not, like for the amount of volume that I think the average person like myself coming in and just enjoying your beer would be like, okay, like they're putting a lot of, like their brewery must be huge, and like the lines and just the people, like, oh my goodness. And you go upstairs and it's like, you can almost touch both walls. It's like, this is a little bit smaller.
It's, it'll be about 400 square feet.
Yeah.
I think it's again, 22 foot wide and 20-ish.
Yeah. And like, deep. I mean, as far as like, what is there, 4 tanks, 5?
No, we've got 5 tanks.
5 tanks, okay.
Plus we've also got the cider tank and the mead tank, and those are kind of specifically 2 ciders and meads.
Okay.
But yeah, we have 3 barrels, 2 1.5 barrels. They're constantly full. It's, if there's a tank empty, it's never empty for longer than 12 hours.
Wow.
Although like today, we're going to hit that 12 hour because our grain has not shipped yet.
Well, it does say out for delivery now.
Okay. So
we're waiting on a freight order.
There you go. Yeah. Because I mean, and I guess like I know we've seen a little bit with some craft breweries here in Huntsville over the last, I guess, as we were recording this over the last week.
Yeah.
But like with supply demands since COVID, I mean, have y'all seen that being an issue for y'all, or y'all been able to kind of, at the volume at which you produce, you're able to kind of balance that supply issue?
We've been able to get everything that we need. Obviously pricing was crazy for a while.
Yeah.
And
Changes.
there were some periods where we would order and they would say, hey, we've got this coming. We don't have it yet, but when it gets here, we'll send it out.
Yeah.
Those prices were all over the map for a while. The bulk of the cost of what we deal with is transportation.
Yeah.
So if you're getting, Irish malts or German malts or that kind of stuff, there's a huge cost to get them from there to our door. So those really weighed in, on the pricing changes, and it fluctuated day to day. It's a commodity. It's, it's not a fixed price good. So we would get a pricing update, and then a month later they'd send out a new price list and say, hey, that list from a month ago is no longer valid. This is the new pricing. Those are starting to stabilize again. A lot of it's come back closer to pre-COVID levels.
So, I mean, and besides just beer, I mean, you've expanded into offering a little bit of a bigger variety of options. You mentioned it earlier: the ciders, the meads, wine, slushies. Kind of when did that become a thing? And I know that, the slushies are one of those things. It's hard to keep them on the shelf.
It is.
But like, how has those kind of expanded the interest of people thinking, hey, like if I'm not interested in craft beer, but they have wine, they have slushies, they have all this. How has that kind of boosted the popularity of Green Bus over the last couple of years since you've started bringing that into the mix?
I have to say, as I still occasionally bartend. The slushies, especially in the summertime, they have really been a big pull. Thursdays, people want to come in, they want to go to the market, but you don't want to get bogged down by like an IPA or like a brown ale or like a stout. People come in and they really help out. When we had the wine, when we first released the wine, people were buying it like crazy. And I think now it's just like, oh, we're used to it. We know. So it's slowed down a little bit, but people still love it.
Yeah.
So on the bartending side, I think it's really helped out, the variety of things people can choose from.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big draws to the alternative stuff for me is, we're never going to be a winery. Like that's not what we're about. I'm not a big wine drinker, so I can't really fine tune that stuff and make it exactly what we want. We're trying to make a product that if you and 10 of your friends want to go out and grab a beer and there's one or two people in there who aren't craft beer drinkers,
there's something for them.
We need to give those guys an option.
Yeah. And I think the ciders do that too. And like even the seltzers, the seltzers have been a pretty big hit too.
Yeah.
And the variety at which you offer, because it's like you have the seltzer water and then you're able to mix. You typically have anywhere from probably 6 to 8 different options of flavors to add to your seltzer, which gives that option for somebody that's like, hey, they're coming out with their parents, they're coming out with their friends.
Right.
2 or 3 of the friends like craft beer, like IPAs. One of them doesn't. Well, we have seltzer. Oh, I like seltzers. Like it's an easy to drink. They have a cider, and it's just the gluten-free options. There's so much. Yeah. My mother-in-law is celiac. Yeah. And my brother-in-law is celiac. Yeah. And so like them having the option of having something that's not like that is gluten-free that they can enjoy, having the wine, and then with the wine, it's a little different. I think we always try to get the point across through social media, but it's the bottle you're getting.
Right.
And so, but there are whatever's not drank, y'all cap and you let them take them home. Yeah.
I have to say, one of the things, like, even though our wine is called junkyard wine, it's not bad.
No,
it's a really good wine.
It's a good. I think I've had every one of them, and the one that surprised me the most was the rosé.
Yeah. See, I don't think I actually got to try the rosé before everybody drank it.
It was. I'm not a rosé drinker. I'm not a huge if I drink wine, it's typically like a dry wine. It's a red wine. It's like that's typically. But I don't seek after wine. If someone's going to order a bottle of wine at a restaurant, I'll have some. But the rosé, I think someone ordered it or my wife got it, and I remember having a glass and being like, "This is pretty good." This is it's like dangerously good.
Glass.
So there's a scale within rosé, and I don't remember all the different levels, but they range from fairly dry to fairly sweet. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a Sangiovese, and I may be butchering that.
It's okay. We're not Italian.
No, it's good enough for me.
With this accent, everything sounds wrong. but the Sangiovese is kind of the middle of the road.
Okay.
So a lot of rosés are pushed more toward the sweet side. So we purposely picked one that was a little more dry than the typical rosé.
And like, I mean, and I know like the wine, I mean, like the wine and the slushies and the ciders and the meat, I mean, all those are something that like they're very popular and you often are out. And I know that like y'all posted about having the mead back, and it was just like this huge eruption of just like, oh, there's something like it kind of draws that interest of people that says, you know, and I think for me, I think I got a mead flight one time. I don't even know why. I was just like, I think I was getting some photos.
That's dangerous.
I think I was getting some photos, but I was also like, I feel like I need to like try all this. And so we ended up getting it. And I remember, I forgot who it was that was, I think it was, I can't remember his name that was there that I remember ordering it and him.
Probably Micah.
Okay. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I gotta get some photos. And like my wife and I want to try it. And I remember finishing, I was like, we should not have done that.
This was a bad idea.
This is a bad idea. But then it was like, I feel like I sampled, because I think at one point you had like 4 or 5, it was like 4 different meads. And it was like, well, I could give them each a try and like try some of this and try some of that. And it was just the little pours, but it was a cool experience. And it's something that's unique that not many people are doing. I mean, there's a meadery now, I guess the Ravenwood at Lone Mill, but there's not a ton of mead options around town.
Yeah, it's not a super common beverage. If you're listening and don't know what mead is, it's a honey-based wine. A lot of people shy away from them, assuming again that they'll be super sweet because they're honey-based, and they don't have to be. Mead is a broad category as well. You'll see everything from like 5% carbonated served cold up to what we do, which is they're served room temp. We're usually in the 14 to 16% range. So they're heavy. It's like drinking a glass of wine. Yeah. I prefer them still, so we don't carbonate any of ours.
I'm really excited that they're back. One of the this is my little homemade recipe, but in the wintertime when we have the gingerbread or the spiced orange, I tend to get, like, my throat gets really scratchy because of just going from the extreme cold to being in a brewery that's very humid. So I like to get, like, a growler and make hot toddies with it. And that is literally the best hot toddy we'll ever drink. So,
if
like,
anyone's listening in the winter, you have to get that. So, like, one thing I do want to bring up is, Genna, there was an article that came out, I guess, around 2022 that you were featured in as Huntsville's only female brewer. Yes. And I think that you were kind of involved with a little, like they interviewed you and talked a little bit about that. What was it like kind of getting that recognition? And then also kind of like, what did the brewery scene look like? Did other breweries, like, did you start reaching out to you? Like, what was that kind of like? And kind of how did that come to be?
So not really like nobody was reaching out. I did find out that Old Black Bear has a female head brewer. I believe her name is Candace, but since it's Madison, I'm still technically the only one in Huntsville. Technically. So nobody, like, it didn't really change anything, which that's awesome. Yeah. Exposure like that makes me incredibly nervous. I think, it was just, I guess it was good to know that, they're the ladies of Pink Boots at Birmingham. I'm part of the Pink Boots in Birmingham. Got to talk a lot, chit chat with some of those girls. I got asked to be on a panel for women in brewing back in March, but there was just too much going on, and I think I was out of the country anyway. But it's
I don't think a lot of people that support Green Bus and go there often probably even knew.
Most of them already kind of knew, but it was funny that we had a lot of regulars who didn't realize.
Really?
Yeah, it was that was entertaining because there's one guy he's got a son, and you probably know who I'm talking about. Well, if he's got 2 sons now. They're both the brewery kids. I don't know if I should say their names, so I'm just being like politely avoiding the topic. He came in, he was like, I read that article. I had I knew you were brewing, but I didn't know you were the head brewer. And I was like, yeah.
You like brew something new and you come down and start asking the regulars like, oh, do you like this? Like, oh yeah, it tastes like the one we have had before. It's like, okay, good. Like I checked all those boxes.
No, that's actually something the regulars who come in a lot, they are not shy about letting me know if they think I've screwed up or if I've done a great job, or like, hey, when is this coming back? I get requests for beer all the time. And I'm like, maybe if you ask me 10 more times, I'll think about it. Funny enough though, I forget why, but I was looking through some of our old recipes, and I found the Mosaic honey wheat that they hadn't done for a while, because I guess people weren't really into it back then, but I started making it again, and people really love that one. So a classic comes back. I'm actually going to probably brew it in the near future.
Okay.
When our shipment gets here.
I mean, like, do you see that, like, from when opening in 2016 to kind of now and halfway through 2023, like, do you see those regulars that you've had since the beginning that have still kind of like have acquired that taste bud for Green Bus, that they can tell you and say, hey, like, I think this is a little, like, this one tastes a little different, or like,
for sure.
And just that, have you seen that continuous support with the same people over the last 6-7 years now?
There's a few people who were there in the beginning that are still there. It tends to kind of ebb and flow a little, I guess. I mean, we definitely have some super dedicated regulars. Yeah. And it's interesting too, like, those guys are all friends. And ladies, there's ladies in the group too. Yeah. But they do stuff. They met at Green Bus, and they do stuff outside of Green Bus.
Wow.
Like, they go to each other's houses and have dinner, and like they go out to other restaurants, and they became friends at the bus.
Wow.
And there's, it's not unusual to see a person click into that group, and then, at some point you'll see somebody click out of that group.
Yeah.
And so it's still the same group, but people kind of come and go from it. Mm. I mean, people move out of town for work, or, something, whatever happens in their life, and they're just not there as much as they used to be anymore. Yeah. But we definitely have a huge group of very dedicated regulars. And like she was saying, you kind of, you see their families grow and change. And I mean,
in the 4 years that I've been there, I've seen 4 or 5 different people have children, and their children come in, and like, it's weird, because like, I still view myself as like super young, and I'm like about to be 31. So I'm like, there's no way. But it's really cool to watch people come, go, grow. You get people who were only occasional, now they come in more often. Yeah. I mean, it's a great vibe, and it's almost like its own little community.
Yeah, and I guess at the size that Green Bus is, you're able to kind of have those personal, like, you're able to know, like, I mean, it's hard not to go in there when y'all open at 3:00 and see regulars.
Right. Oh yeah,
like that is, and I think that's one of the most unique things. I think it's like, I'll sometimes go right when y'all open, I'll leave here, go straight there, grab a couple photos, have a beer, walk around the square, grab another one, whatever it might be. And the same people are there at 3:00. It is, it's like, it's part of what they like. It's like, I get off work, or I work the last hour remote, or whatever it is. Yeah. It's what they are doing. And a big part of Green Bus too is the live music that y'all do. I mean, that brings a lot of, and is that something that y'all have done since the beginning, or is that something you kind of started a couple years in?
It was a couple years in.
I guess at the scale it is now.
I was gonna say, it's a lot less. It was less frequent when I first started, and it seems like now we've gotten more and more, like, every weekend.
Yeah. And you have kind of like the regular, like, hey, here's the list of people that play, and kind of rotating in and out through maybe trying this new person out, trying the same. There's a lot of, I mean, Josh and Newt are just one of those ones that, like, they're back again.
Yeah, they're at the bus twice a month.
Yeah.
Really, they're one of the only standing spots. Yeah. We do rotate through a pretty big list of people.
But I mean, that brings a ton of people that I would presume either maybe are downtown and didn't know y'all are doing live music and didn't know the Green Bus was there, that finds you. Yeah. And it also kind of gets those regulars, those people that really like this person or that person to come back on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, like, there's some people we only see them when this particular person plays.
Yeah.
You know, and then other times we do see them come back.
Yeah.
Like they came to see this person play,
and they enjoyed this, and they came back again.
Yeah, then they'll come back every now and then.
Because I mean, I feel like there's probably still that sort of, hey, there's still. I mean, you're probably still seeing new people come into Green Bus that either didn't know you were there or traveling for work and happened to be in town. And I mean, I assume that happens pretty often.
It does. It's frequent. It's interesting when the pandemic hit. And we were pretty much the only people open. We got a lot of we had a lot of people coming in, trying beers, shuffling through. And there are still quite a few people who only started coming during the pandemic that are now regulars. Yeah. And
they were a regular somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that place was closed.
Yeah. So they came up to us.
Wow.
They came to the one place downtown where you could still walk in and grab a beer
and walk around the square. Because I mean, there was probably that foot traffic for y'all and just the people then maybe that are now working remote from home that live around downtown. They're probably that kind of, it pushes them to come back and kind of see the space and kind of see what's going on. Looking at kind of where Green Bus has gone over the last, 7 years of opening it. 2016, you opened the doors. Halfway through 2023, kind of what does the next 6 months look like for Green Bus? What are some things that you're looking to like either bring back, some beers that are going to be coming seasonally, what are some of the goals you have for the next 6 months finishing out 2023?
I got to get those beers out of the barrels.
Yeah,
I've got like 4 beers in a barrel right now. There's a couple of them I want to let sit for a while. Yeah. Like the heavier flavored ones, but
some barrel
probably going to have some barrel aged stuff coming out.
We have a pretty nifty cellar.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great.
It's hard to get in and out of, but it's perfect for barrel aging.
Yeah. Because I've seen that you've done the Buffalo Trace barrel age.
Right.
We have that,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
We've got.
We need to get a few more barrels down there and, build that program.
Build that up. Yeah.
Got a strong cider in a barrel too. So we've got not only a strong cider. I don't know how long Carey wants to age that one for.
We need to taste it.
I know. I was like, I need to get down there. Maybe we'll have a tasting later.
Yeah, barrel aging is kind of one of those things where you don't really have control over it.
You just
you put it in there and you taste it every now and then, and at some point you go, "Ooh, this is good,"
really good.
or "Ooh, this one went south."
Yeah.
So.
Some
barrel aged stuff coming this year.
Yeah. I think depending on how it tastes, that Belgian golden will
strong.
Probably be the first
really
one.
Good.
I was gonna say it. I think we put it in bourbon whiskey. Pretty much the same. Yeah. Please don't kill me, my friends who love whiskey. I know the difference.
Yes.
But I think that one is probably going to be the first one because it is lighter, like in color. I feel like the flavor, again, it's when it's ready, it's ready.
Yeah.
But I think that'll probably be the first one to come out.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like the success for Green Bus over the last 6 years, 7 years. It's increased. You've seen the traffic. You've seen more success. Looking at your journey, Carey, since the beginning, how much of your success within Green Bus would you contribute for Green Bus being in the right place at the right time versus your hard work within the business?
Oh, right place at right time is massive. I mean, downtown, when we first opened, we did not intend to be downtown. That was not our goal. We were looking South Parkway.
Wow.
Because at the time I was living in Somerville, and then Jason lived down on South Parkway as well.
It was a good spot for the middle.
Yeah, so we were kind of looking for something closer to home.
Huh.
And then Eustis came up. And we were like, well, why? There's nothing downtown. Why would we do that?
Yeah, no one's coming down here.
It kind of, we looked at it, we talked about it, and we said, yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. We weren't finding anything suitable anywhere else. Wow. And so it kind of worked out well. And since downtown has grown so much in these 7 years,
wow.
It was lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great lucky.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it would have been hard to imagine now in 2016 what it is today.
Oh yeah,
to be like, okay, well, you really wanted something in South Parkway, but there's this place downtown and promised you in 7 years you're not going to even be able to recognize anything. They're going to be doing construction everywhere. People are always going to be walking downtown all times of the year, never going to have a hard time finding. Like you might not be able to park anywhere, but you'll be able to enjoy it and have a great beer. And now it is what it is today. I mean, it's incredible to see. If anyone's listening and they want to connect with you, they want to support, they want to come by and have a beer, they want to grab some merch, they want to get a t-shirt, they want to follow you, whatever it might be, where can they find you? Where are you located? And all of that good stuff.
So we're at 206 Eustis. That's next to Church of the Nativity. That's the big black steeple right in downtown. So we're half a block off the square from the county courthouse. That's the best way to do it. I mean,
and y'all are open 7 days a week.
Oh
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's just like a unique thing. Like y'all are often open for holidays. Y'all are open 7 days a week. You open at 3:00.
Yep.
Most days during the week.
Three during the week, and then noon on Saturday and Sunday.
And then you have a wide assortment of merch. So if anyone's listening and they really want some cool t-shirts, definitely go by Green Bus and grab a t-shirt. There's t-shirts, there's dog collars, there's tank tops, there's pint glasses, growlers. I mean, you name it, they have it. So definitely swing by and check them out. Except hats. No hats.
I still haven't found a hat that I'm happy. I have one hat that I really like.
Okay.
And I can't find that one to get embroidered.
Okay.
So I'm still working on it.
Hats maybe coming soon. Maybe by the end of the year we'll have some hats. Maybe that's the thing looking forward for this year is some hats.
So one other big thing, and we've talked about it a little bit, but not really publicly said a whole lot yet. But I'm working with a friend who is basically going to open a full-blown coffee shop inside Green Bus.
Oh wow.
So
that's exciting.
We're hoping a month or so out.
Okay.
The equipment is here. We're doing the final stuff, getting it set up and ready.
So I think your episode's going to come out let me think. Into this 20-something of August. So maybe by the time the episode's out,
it'll probably be, we will hopefully be running by then.
So if you're listening to this episode when it's coming out, I think it's like August 21st, maybe it's going to come out. There should be a coffee shop at Green Bus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's going to change. You said we open at 3 during the week. That's going to completely change.
Okay.
So we'll run beer the whole time we're open. So if you want to come in at 10 o'clock in the morning, like we were talking about, and grab a beer.
If you're in the medical field and you get off work from a night shift and you want to have a beer on your way home, you can.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So that's going to be Bus Stop Coffee.
Bus Stop Coffee. Love that.
Yeah. Pretty cool logo and artwork and stuff.
Okay.
Getting built.
Yeah. Like announcements of first things on Beyond Rockets. I mean, this is incredible. It's always like, there's been a couple over the years. There's been a few people that's announced things on the podcast, and I'm always like, I'm the first one that knows. And like I get to know about it a month before it actually comes out for everyone else. So it's always cool to see. But
there's a few regulars who we've talked with. I mean, if you're there enough, you'd notice some stuff is happening that's not normal. Like I'm meeting with Ken more often, and we're talking about things.
Yeah.
And, every time he comes in now, we kind of powwow over to the side, so the regulars kind of started scratching their head along the way and said, what's happening?
Yeah. Y'all aren't closing, are you? No, we're not. We are open and running and going to be open. So is the coffee going to be something that's going to be served pretty much Monday through Sunday?
The plan right now, and this, much like we did with the bus, it's up to what the people, it's up to how customers behave and how it kind of shakes out. But our initial thought is we'll run full-blown coffee shop through the mornings, 7 days. And then probably afternoons sometime, like Monday through Thursday maybe, the coffee shop portion will close down. We'll still have like drip coffee and nitro cold brew.
Okay.
And, the like easy stuff. To
but we're not doing
prepare.
Lattes and cappuccinos and stuff like that.
Right. But then on Friday and Saturday, we'll probably run the full coffee shop.
Wow. That's exciting.
Into the night.
Wow.
I don't know if we'll go, the espresso machine is a little complicated to get cleaned up, and it takes some time to do that stuff. So we'll probably knock that off before closing, where we'll have time to get the machine cleaned up and stored.
Well, it's cool to see that sort of that transition of being able to offer something like that and like kind of meeting the need of. Because I mean, it's an area where like I could stay on the weekends when y'all are open for coffee. Like being very like you're having a whole new crowd of people that are going to be coming to
Right.
try the coffee because you're a part of it. You're probably be a part of the downtown coffee trail,
Yeah.
which gets people to come by and see the space.
And-
And then there's like, by the way, we serve beer in the evenings, or if you want a beer right now, we will serve.
We'll
you
do
beer.
that too. And the number of people that open the door and look in and go,
Are y'all
Got
open?
coffee?
"Is this a coffee shop?"
Huh.
They see brewing and
Yeah. But like when they open the door this time, you're like, yes, it's a coffee shop.
Yeah,
Come on in.
We're both.
We're
Come
both.
on in.
That's exciting to see. So like, yeah, we'll have
So-
all the stuff for Green Bus, all their information, the episode notes, and then yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Hopefully, when this episode comes out, people will be able to get some coffee. I
Yeah.
think I'll even have to be able to stop by and have like work from Green Bus at 9:00 in the morning. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's gonna be hard not to have a beer at 9:00, but I will definitely try my best.
Just have a mead.
Just go slow.
Yeah, just have a slow mead, or just order a bottle of wine and just slowly drink it. But
It makes meetings much more fun.
yeah, it's way more fun. Well, I appreciate spending the last 50 minutes or so talking with me about Green Bus and kind of the story of Green Bus, the successes of Green Bus. And I continue to look forward to the success that you'll have with Green Bus, with the coffee shop for years to come here in Huntsville. So thank you so much for being
Awesome.
here.
Thank you.
Thanks.